So we've been talking about converting data into information. So let's talk exactly about how that particular process is going to be occurring. So we have lots of different kinds of operational external data that can exist out there. Relational types of information, legacy data structures, flat file structures, and many different kinds of data that happen to be out there and available. So we want to transition this into something that we can use from an informational perspective. So the first thing we just have to look at is, well, what data are we going to be looking at? What the format is it going to be? Where does it exist? Where does it reside? What's the structure look like? That's the easy part. After that, we need to think about transformation. We think about how to clean up this data. So let's face it, our operational systems have been around a long time. Operational data is probably not in the format that we would like it to be. It's probably been changed, modified, manipulated over time, and it really is not in a good format. Probably lots of hidden fields, lots of fields in there that say and define one thing but really contain some other kind of data. And we really need to go through a process of transforming this, doing some reconciliation, doing some cleansing, doing some summarizations, and maybe even putting in some aggregations. If we're going to build a warehouse, we don't want to keep calculating totals all the time, so maybe in this process I can start to identify some fields that I want to create some rolling totals on. So this is the phase where we would do something like that. So the transformation phase is something that we'll probably have to pass through on our way to creating a good informational type of system. After that, we can go through the distribution process. How are these particular pieces going to be staged? So we're coming from a production environment. We have probably multiple steps we'll have to go through to get it into a final cleaned up format. So maybe there's a series of stages that we have to go through. Maybe we need to do different kinds of joins and create and link different kinds of application data together. Maybe we need to think about what the time schedule is going to be, how the data is going to be populated, what the time window is going to be. Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be monthly? Is it going to be daily? Those are the kinds of questions that we'll have to ask ourselves. Then we need to think about how it's going to be stored, more than likely in some type of relational type of a system. So that's probably a pretty easy one to answer here, but we need to define not only what type of relational system we're going to be using, but what the overall structure of the data warehouse is going to be, what types of relationships it's going to have, what are going to be some of the embedded meanings inside of it. And once we're done with that, we need to create some type of an informational perspective so people can easily find our data. So this is where the metadata piece comes into play. We need to be able to create a metadata catalog and populate with information on exactly how this information is going to appear, how it's going to occur, what kind of data we actually have in the system itself. Then, and only then, can I go through the process of looking at it from an analytical perspective, creating ad hoc queries, building some informational reports, creating extensive informational systems that I can use, doing different kinds of data mining, doing dimensional analysis. Those are some very key points that can only occur after I've gone through these various phases. Now, once we've done that, then we can automate some of these processes, obviously. So once we've created these structures, then we want to go ahead and the extraction process, the transformation process, all those things can be fairly well automated and execute on a timely basis. And then we think about how we're going to support all these particular pieces, what standards we're going to be working with, what interface we're going to be dealing with, and then looking at how we're going to support this. And this is kind of where the business objects piece comes into play. The business objects piece is going to be our interface into these systems. That's what we're going to use to create our reports and to build our information systems.